Hey guys, it's Bridget from Open Chair Counseling, and I have another great Enneagram therapist interview for you today. I got a chance to sit down and talk with my really good friend Joshua Nave to hear about his experience of being a therapist who's also an Enneagram 9 or the peacemaker. Joshua brought so much great wisdom and insight into our conversation today that I can't wait to share with you guys. Well, we will try it again.
We'll see how it goes.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is take two. Joshua, welcome back.
And a
Oh,
little
was that the
clicky
little
thing.
clapper thing?
And a little clappy thing.
Oh, I like it. That was
Yeah,
smart.
yeah.
So we already had an interview and it was great. But it was too great for my computer to handle. So we are
Awesome.
doing it again.
Yes, that is what's
Yes.
happening.
But I'm sure that our conversation today will be just as good, if not better.
We shall see.
We shall see.
We shall see.
Okay. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so my name is first name Claude Joshua Nave. I go by Joshua though. Um, just what it is, right? I am an what LMSW, so Masters of Social Worker here in Michigan. I've been doing some form of social work for almost a decade now, and I've been doing specifically therapy for I think it's been 3, maybe 4 years. I've lost track of time.
I think you
I don't
started
know when
I think you started just before I did, and I
I
started like May of 2019.
okay, so probably 3 years.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was some amount of time by this point.
And you said you're an LMSW. Are you fully licensed now?
I am fully licensed.
You got your license? Oh, I did know that. I remember that now.
I got it just a few what is it? I got December.
Yeah.
December.
Oh man, time flies.
It does.
It does.
Yeah. That's the baseline. Was there any more I should say?
What types of therapy do
Oh,
you do? What types of clients do you work with? What's kind of your specialty? What's your jam?
that's a good point. Yeah, so I primarily see myself as a trauma therapist.
Mhm.
I am trained in EMDR, eye movement desensitization reprocessing therapy. Ever since I got trained in that, I have been doing that like as my primary sole therapy. I mean, again, I still do a lot of forms of traditional talk therapy in conjunction with EMDR, and primarily I'm looking for clients who, they're find themselves where like I'm getting stuck in the same patterns behavior, right? Like my relationships are going the same, I having the same beliefs about myself. So maybe I'm having clients who have some strong PTSD, right? Like
Mhm.
something is happening, I'm seeing something, I'm smelling something, something's making me think of something, and I'm being triggered back to past memories. Clients who are having sleep disturbances, clients who are having rampant anxiety and don't know how to control it, maybe panic attack disorder, OCD clients, really the gambit of people who are affected by trauma is relatively large. But these are my primary areas, right? I think you could summarize it with anxiety, right?
Mm.
I'm gonna look to help those clients basically regain their lives and get to a place where like I'm not experiencing that anxiety anymore. I'm being able to really believe new beliefs that life is going to be okay, that I can make changes, that I'm strong, I'm powerful. Fill in the blanks, right?
Mhm.
Um, that's kind of like my primary population. If I had to put like a subcategory of people I really like to work with, I really like to work with minority groups. So like minority groups, like people with the BIPOC community, LGBTQ plus community members. I always trip up my words when I try to say all that, but
Mhm.
these groups are another groups that are going to have experienced probably more trauma than any other groups because they are those minority underrepresented groups in the country that is America,
Mhm.
which is not conductive to health. So
Mhm.
those are kind of my primary groups. I love those groups. I'll work with anyone, almost anyone. Probably has something we can work with. Yeah. The only areas that I probably don't do, I don't do couples that much. Don't do kids anymore.
Mhm.
Don't really do bipolar or what's the other one? Schizophrenic. No, not bipolar. Borderline. That's the
Oh, okay. So not
borderline and me don't do too great together.
not personality disorders in general, or just specific.
Just borderline.
Okay, gotcha.
It's a hard one.
It can be difficult. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Borderlines are often gonna feel really connected with people, and I've got my hour and maybe a
Mhm.
few moments throughout the week for you. So
Mhm.
it doesn't. No, it's kind of hard to provide the full scope of care that some of these clients might. be seeking
Yeah.
as a
Yeah.
private practice person.
Because you gotta have boundaries.
I have a lot of boundaries.
Yeah.
That's there. Does that answer who I am?
I don't know. We'll just keep peeling back the layers of who is Joshua.
I
So
don't know.
I have been privileged to hear the story of how you got into therapy, or
Mm,
how you became a therapist. But
mm,
could you remind us what the catalyst was to get you into becoming a therapist?
sure. I'm going to try to make it more concise this time. Short version, as concise as it can be. Went to school for ministry because I've got a deep faith in Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior. God is my direction for everything I've done in my life. Ever since I was 7, I've grown up in the church. I spent my whole life in the church. Um, and I knew that I needed to do something to help people, right?
Mhm.
So if I went out and I made, again, I was that kid who's like, I'm going to make video games and make money for playing video games, right? It's going to be great. And that at some point made me realize, if I'm serving this God who wants to help people, I don't really think I can do that very much with this job profession. I need to help people. So I went to school for ministry, realized that, I already knew a lot about the Bible. Learning more about the Bible probably wouldn't help me help people anymore
Mm.
because, I'd show up and they'd be like, so what can you do to help? Like, well, I know the Bible. I'm like, yeah, but we've got these problems. What you can do? I don't know anything about those things. So
Mhm.
decided, okay, I'm going to be a teacher. And from there, I got in classrooms with a bunch of kids, and I'm like, wow, I love kids. And man, I hate managing a room full of kids. This isn't for me. And I was kind of lost with a little bit of direction of, well, ultimately, God, where do you want me to be? Where do you want me to be? And I'm going through these prayers, I'm going through these motions. And I remember distinctly, I had a friend come in and meet me at a coffee shop one day, and she was having a real hard time. I don't even remember exactly what it was. I think it was something in her family, like struggles within her family members, like um, threatening to like cast each other out of the family, things like that.
Mhm.
And I remember we talked, and I just listened, and I gave a little few words of wisdom. I helped them think through what they wanted to do with it all. And at the end of that hour, um, she got up and she said, "Wow, I feel so much lighter than I did when I came in here. I think I have a direction to go. Like this was really helpful." And she walked out, and I'm like, "Oh wow, I didn't really feel like I was being that helpful. I really enjoyed what I had just done right there, right?"
Mhm.
And I realized I've been doing stuff like that all of my life, where I've been listening to people, giving them wisdom, and I'm like, oh my god, I think I should be a counselor.
Mhm.
So I started and I did my bachelor's degree, and I got into, what is it, counseling? No, not really counseling, but in-home patient care. And
Yeah.
I realized that this was not what I wanted to do, and so I stopped doing counseling for a year. I started working out of thrift stores. I'm like, this is so much better. Like you get to see the results, you make money, life is great. And finally, then I have to say all this because at that point in my life, I was going to be done with this whole career of being a counselor and stuff,
Mhm.
right? But it's a worthwhile note, right? I have a very wonderful wife, and that very wonderful wife said very loving words to me. "You're not the man I married." And that was very loving words, right? Very challenging words because
Mhm. Mhm.
it's true. The man she had married said, "I have this direction and goals that I'm going to achieve," and he had given up, right?
Mhm.
And so those challenges, obviously, I wasn't happy about those, and I was very angry about those words. No one likes being really challenged. But through those words, I signed up for my master's program. I started relearning psychology, relearning therapy, social work, all these things, remembering why I enjoy this profession so much.
Yeah.
And, I got out, I had my therapist license, and I learned that, therapy is actually a wonderful profession. It's just the things I'd gone through in the past didn't really allow me to do everything
Mhm.
that I really wanted and passionately needed to do for people. So there you go. That is
Yeah.
the shortest way I can say why I'm a therapist.
And the last time you shared that story with me, I remember we got into like kind of a little side conversation
Mm,
um, about where's the line between accountability and stunted growth. Because I
hmm
remember you saying, like your wife's statement of like you're not the man that I married
hmm
could have been kind of taken either way. It could have either been like the way that you took it of accountability of yeah these are the goals that I set out to achieve and am I just giving up because it's really hard
hmm
um and is this person keeping me accountable to continuing to move forward, continuing to keep my word,
Mhm.
or it could have been taken a very different way of like, this is stunting my growth. Maybe I'm
Yeah.
developing into a different person than the expectations that I had. Maybe I'm going down a different path than I had
Mhm.
planned. And that's
Mhm.
okay because I'm still moving in a direction. I'm still going towards something. It's just not,
Mhm.
it's not the original goal anymore. The goal has changed.
Yep. Yeah, it's that basic thought, right? Like a good partner, I would say generally, right? A good
Mhm.
person in my life who's going to hold me accountable. Last time we did talk about how accountability, at least in my eyes, and again, take everything I have from a grain of salt because it's just my opinion,
Mhm.
right? My opinion is accountability is a lot of freedom, right? You put up these guidelines, you put up these boundaries, you hold people accountable, and it gives you the freedom to really grow and move forward, right? Without accountability, without someone to push me forward or to move you forward, without any reason to move forward, there isn't really a lot of growth.
Right.
So I could have a partner, yeah, I could have a partner who's saying, like, I wanted you to just stay always the same as this, right?
Mhm.
And that's not really accountability. That's just more like repression. I want you to just stay as the person I always thought you always were, right?
Yeah.
In the case of my wife, again, because I've had a relationship with her a long time, those words were very clear to me. You told me you were going to become this person. Now you've given up because, yeah, easiest way, because it's hard. We could say that it's easier not to be, right? That's not the person you claim to be. So she's
Mhm.
holding me accountable to the person I said I would be, right? And it's kind of right. It's true, right? If she had not held me accountable, right, I was gonna be growing in a different direction.
Mhm.
A person who had a lot of money and didn't do therapy, it would have been great for. I say great, probably not great for me, honestly. Right? I've become a very probably selfish person
Mm.
with all that money and no need to really take care of anyone else other than
Mhm.
myself and my wife,
Mhm.
right? So I think that's a note, right? Like you're gonna grow. You're gonna stagnate. You're gonna grow. You
Mhm.
stagnate, you're gonna grow. You stagnate, you're gonna grow, right? So when somebody's holding you accountable, right? It's holding you accountable to again for what the agreed upon direction, either the direction you've said you're gonna go,
Mhm.
or the direction, especially with a partner, the direction we've agreed upon together that we're gonna go, right?
Yeah.
So for us, we had agreed this is where we're gonna go. And if I'm suddenly going, well, I'm gonna go a different direction now, I'm still growing in a different direction, right?
Mhm.
Well, I think my wife has every right to say that's not what we agreed upon
Right.
and hold me accountable to this. And if she's a good wife too, and she is, she'd know, hey, you know what? You having a lot of money and little to no responsibility isn't a good thing for you.
Yeah.
It definitely wasn't. So back to school, back to school.
So it's a cost benefit analysis, right? Like everything else in life. You could have gone the route of not doing therapy and maybe had more money and had a job that wasn't as fulfilling or didn't push you in certain ways, or you could have taken the
Organizing
route.
like donation drives, like,
Yeah. Or you could have taken the route that you did and say like, well, I'm going to commit myself to a job that maybe I won't make as much money, but maybe the job itself will be more fulfilling.
definitely was.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. So
So, oh, go ahead.
hmm, you're in charge.
Oh, oh. So this whole series is on therapists around the Enneagram. So share with us, Joshua, what is your Enneagram type?
I am an Enneagram 9 with a wing, if anyone knows what wings are, wing 1. Pretty heavy wing 1.
Can you explain what a nine wing one is? What would you call that? How would you
So a
describe it?
9 is a peacemaker,
Uh-huh.
right? It's not as simply that, but that's the best starting point.
Mhm.
And a wing 1 means that you have, I believe the 1 is the reformer, if I'm
Correct.
correct, right?
Yep.
And
Mhm.
so I have a very heavy basic thought is I love peace and I love following structures, rules. I love following um, in my mind, I often look at it as truth. If something is true, I must follow it, right?
Mhm.
If it
Mhm.
is something that is false, then I hate to follow it, right?
Mhm.
So, what, like, if there's a law that says you can't buy pickles on a Sunday, I go, this is ridiculous. We need to change this. There is a law in a state somewhere where you can't buy pickles on a Sunday.
Really?
Yes, I don't remember which state. This is just weird laws you can read on the internet, right? And so
Mm.
this is obviously something that I, as a reformer, would like. This is ridiculous. We have to change this.
Mhm.
As a social worker, if there's a law that oppresses an underprivileged group, I'm like, this is ridiculous. We need to
Mm.
change this, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
But if there's a law, I'm like, ooh, this is something that I just agree with, right? This is going to keep people safe. Then I'm like, oh, yeah, we need to follow this. Because again, the whole goal is through following these things, we're going to have peace. We're going to
Mhm.
have peace, right?
Mhm.
And a nine is going to look for peace in all things because generally speaking, a nine has. What, are we getting into what a nine is right away? Is that the thing? Did I just kind of lead into it?
You're in charge.
Okay, I'm in charge now. All right. So a nine basically, right? A nine is probably someone who's either one of two things. Either they grew up in a like maybe turmoil family, right? And so their job was kind of playing the role of placating everyone, keep everyone calm, keep everyone at peace, right? Make things seem like they're not as bad as they are. Just overall help people get along with each other, right? And this was the nines role. They found that when they were doing like nines will often be kind of funny. They try to act like clowns. They're going to try to make people laugh. Their goal is to relieve the tension of the room because that tension of the room stresses the nine, right?
Mhm.
The tension of the room, the fights, all those things are dangerous to the nine, right? On the base level of it, the nine goes, if there's a fight, if there's dysfunction, if there's not peace around me, I don't get to be me. There's no room for me in a
Mhm.
dysfunctional space, right?
Mhm.
So nines are often gonna quite frequently retreat from who they are as an individual, and they're gonna focus outwardly on others, providing peace and understanding the others. Now, yeah, we can keep going more with that, but we'll just start with that. If they don't have a dysfunctional family, then sometimes nines have just they put themselves out there. They're like, "Hey guys, here's me," and that didn't go so well for the poor nine. And so the nine learns, "Ooh, if I'm too much, if I take up too much space,
Mhm.
people will not want to be around me. Maybe people will harm me. Maybe I'm gonna lose things." Ultimately, the nine is afraid of loss
Mhm.
in
Mhm.
general. Loss of relationship most of the time, but loss of anything can be pretty bad for a nine. Like
Mhm.
like I didn't have enough screws for this project. Oh no, I didn't keep enough. Damn it!
Oh no, did you buy a piece of IKEA furniture?
I bought a Wayfarer furniture.
Ugh,
Yeah.
it's
But
always
no, I
the
did. I have my screws. That was just there's screws around me right now, so I must be thinking of them.
I feel like it's always the struggle with, like, ordering furniture that comes in kits. It's like, you have to really be trusting that they gave you the right amount of parts.
That's all you can do.
That's all you can do.
Or yell at customer service
That too.
peacefully.
Peacefully yell.
Yeah, I'm maybe upset peacefully.
Alright. So how did you find out about your type?
I found out about my type at a facility that I was working at one point, where I came in, and one of my first visits, I think we were sitting in a room with all the other people working in the area at the time, and someone comes in and goes, "Oh, so what Enneagram type are you?" And I go, "Of course, I don't know what that is. I don't know what you're talking about." And so they gave me an app to download. I took the test. It suggested that I might be a nine or a one, actually. And so I
Mm.
read the descriptions, and the moment I read a nine, and again, nines are often kind of gonna feel one of two ways. They're most of the time they're gonna feel like no one could ever really understand me. A
Mhm.
lot of nines feel like there's so many variables to the world that people can't really be fit in any kind of boxes or things like that. I am not the nine that thinks there are too many variables. I just was the nine that's like, no one's ever going to understand me. So when I read the description, I'm like, oh my God, there I am on
Someone
paper.
understands me.
Someone understands me. This is the greatest personality test that has ever existed, right? Because
Mhm.
I do not take a lot of stock in personality tests. They always get it partially right,
Mm.
but never fully right. But
Mm.
this, the nine, like I'm like, oh, it's like word for word my brain, right?
Mhm.
So that's what got me into nine. That's what got me into the Enneagram. That's what started the whole journey. Yeah.
Mhm. So how do you think that being an Enneagram 9, being a peacemaker, being someone who, um well, I don't wanna give too much away because I remember a lot of our previous conversation. How do you feel like that has shaped your approach to therapy?
Okay. Being a nine, nines are going to go off of a somewhat naive belief that if everyone understands everyone, there
Mhm.
will be peace. We will get
Mhm.
along with each other. This
Mhm.
is somewhat naive because I've learned that sometimes you understand someone and use that to take advantage of them. Or
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you understand someone and you decide that you hate them because you understand them.
Mm.
So that doesn't really function in my brain as a peacemaker. It's normally like you understand them and then you have more passion and mercy and compassion for them,
Yeah,
but
more empathy for
or
what they've been
empathy for
through.
what they're going through, right?
Yeah,
To
yeah.
truly understand what someone goes through means you must also have understood that I could have gone through this. I
Hmm.
could have experienced this, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So all in all, though, even if that has some struggles with the belief, right? I'm going to very much take that into a lot of therapy approaches, right? I'm going to seek to understand my clients on a very deep level and very frequently help my clients to try to understand themselves on a deep level. The
Hmm.
question of why is going to be in almost every one of my therapy sessions about almost everything, right? Guy cut me off. I'm like, well, why does that bother you? And a lot of
Hmm.
people get annoyed by that. Like, it's obvious why that bothers me. I'm like, well, maybe not. There's a lot of reasons. Why does it bother you? Well, he was being inconsiderate. Or someone might be like, well, he's putting someone in danger. Or he cut me off and I wanted to cut him off first, right?
Hmm.
There's a lot of different reasons to be angry about that. But through this understanding, especially self understanding of why I do what I do, why I feel what I feel, really going to the framework of why do I function or
Hmm.
why do I do anything really,
Yeah.
this is going to give us a great foundation of finally making changes in our life, right? It's really hard to change things if you don't know why it functions the way it does, right?
Yeah.
Once
Yeah.
again, if I'm thinking about the thought that comes to mind, old medicine, right? If we're like, hey, the blood is toxic, so we're gonna leach the blood from the body, that will heal people.
Hmm.
Is that my cat?
You're the only one who has a cat.
Oh, okay, so it's my cat.
It's your cat. I don't have a cat.
No, okay. Well, sorry, that was my cat. I don't know what she's doing. We'll figure it out later. But once again, that example goes to the basic thought of if it gets real bad, let me know. I'll
I
call my
think
wife.
I think she's trying to figure out why not being allowed in this room is bothering to her.
That's exactly what
What
it is.
core value is it butting up against?
My father has abandoned me. I
Yes.
will be left here to die.
My bearded father.
My bearded father. Yeah, I'm almost part cat because of my beard.
You're almost part cat because of your
Yeah,
beard?
it's fluffy, and my cats are fluffy.
Oh, okay.
Trust me, that's how it connects.
Ah, I see. Okay.
Yeah, I'm tired, so that means it works.
Okay.
Don't question it too much.
I'm not.
Yes. So the point is, of all of this little roundabout, and again, let me know if it gets bad.
Mhm.
I'm a nine. I got to keep the peace. If we understand really, no, people are not getting sick because their blood is toxic, then we
Mhm.
stop using leeches and we learn what it really is and we start doing something that actually makes function and health, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So understanding is necessary for any real purposeful, intentional change,
Mhm.
right? So I'm going to try to promote that every time in therapy session. And as a nine, then, right? Generally speaking, a nine, we don't really want to be judged, right? We've been told
Mhm.
if we show up, like we're asking too much, we want too much, it's not acceptable, you're weird, you're strange, right? Nines have got a fear that people are going to judge them harshly, right? So nines are, again, this is going to be a paradoxical, and talking about any Enneagram number is going to be paradoxical. They're extremely non-judgmental, nines are, and I'm going to take that approach in all my therapy sessions. Even though nines are very judgmental, they have an opinion about everything.
Mhm.
They may not know it, but they do have an opinion about everything. But that's not something that we're going to be bringing in therapy. So if some client comes in and goes, I am gonna, I don't know, what's something crazy I've heard recently, truly mad, I'm gonna spend all of my savings to go to Berlin on a trip. I'm
Hmm.
just like, but you just graduated college. Don't even have a job yet. And they're like, yes, but I need to travel and experience the world before I work. I'm like, but you have no prospects lined up. To me, as a nine, this seems like a truly bad decision, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
See, I have an opinion about it, and I'm going to question the heck out of that. But there's not going to be a judgment. I'm not going to think any worse about that client. I'm not going to shame that client. I'm
Yeah.
not going to say you're being a bad person or you're being. I'm not going to say any of those things to that client, even if I have an opinion about what they're doing.
Mhm.
So a space of non-judgment, you can talk to me about anything. Even if I'm like, that's not a great idea. Right? So this is kind of does that answer the question? Being a nine, the direction of therapy, great understanding, great
Mhm.
acceptance, non-judgment.
Mhm. Acceptance, non-judgment, understanding your client deeply, and it sounds also like bringing a lot of self-awareness to what they're doing and also bring a lot of self-responsibility for like, now that I'm aware of what I'm doing and why I'm doing it, how can I make intentional, conscious decisions to change things in my life so that I can be happier and healthier.
A lot of accountability.
A lot of accountability.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, full circle. I like it.
It's always full circle.
Always full circle.
It's yeah, it's a thing.
So, what if anything have you realized about yourself or has been made more clear about who you are as a person through your work as a counselor?
Hmm. What has been made more clear about me through my work as a counselor? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's see. Clients are always challenging us as therapists to reflect on ourselves, right? And
Hmm.
I think any therapist who probably tells me that like they're not challenged by their clients or their clients don't assist them in growing is probably not really connecting with themselves. They're not, maybe I don't understand myself in a very deep level, it feels, right?
Hmm.
Because not every client I'm going to walk through and be like, well, yeah, I was really challenged by this client today. I had to grow. But just on the basis of what this relationship is, right? There are
Hmm.
these clients coming in sharing negative, like these dark thoughts. There's clients coming in sharing horrible situations they've gone through, clients coming through sharing fears,
Hmm.
wants, desires, like more than almost any relationship, maybe out of a really connected marriage, maybe you are having an intimate relationship in knowing a person when it comes to therapy, right? And in that, right, experiencing those emotions, hearing those things they've been through, those statements, that's going to bring up feelings, body sensations, memories, thoughts, like I said, judgments, opinions. That's going to bring up all of these things for a therapist, right?
Hmm.
And so, as a nine, then, right, just as I'm trying to seek to help my clients understand themselves, a nine is really trying to spend a lot of time understanding themselves. Nines are always questioning, am I a good person? I think that's one of the easiest ways to put it. Am I a good person? Am I doing right? Am I am I like upsetting people? Am I doing we're always questioning this like kind of who am I, right? So
Hmm.
in a therapy session pretty frequently then like a client's gonna say like, I lost a family member. Ooh, I feel something. Where does that come from for me, right? I'm worried. What if these people don't like? Ooh, I've been in a situation like that. What's that bringing up for me? Pretty frequently, being a therapist, right, as a nine, right, is gonna it's just prompted so many bits of self-reflection and so many bits of growth. I pretty frequently come home and I'll tell my wife about like, oh, I made this progress with this client and this client graduated today. So that's great. You've been helping so many people. And then I'll be like, I feel like they've grown me a lot too. She's like, yes, you have grown so much since being a therapist. Because nines, we need that reflection from others. We need to see what's happening in other people's lives, and we need to reflect on our own experiences with that. Really, for nines to make a lot of progress and growth, we don't connect very well just like sitting around and going, "This is who I am." So
Hmm.
having a treasure trove of people coming through. That's right, treasure trove. My clients are treasure. They're
I like
wonderful,
that.
right? That has grown me. I think I don't know if I could say as much of all my clients, but in my life, it feels like it's made the biggest change in the last. I don't know, what is it? Biggest change since what? Getting married, right? Getting married,
Hmm.
that was a big change.
Hmm.
And then this has been the next biggest, I'd say. Really helping me understand and learn about myself.
Yeah,
Does that answer the question?
I think so.
Yeah.
So, um, two kind of like therapy, like theories or kind of like methodologies are coming to mind, at least for me, just from the sound of how you describe the way that you work with clients. Do you find yourself drawn to mindfulness as a method and internal family systems as a method?
So let's see. Primarily, like I said, I'm EMDR therapist first and foremost. I've
Hmm.
learned to not just try to do that all the time because there's, especially if I'm your only therapist, clients want and need a lot more.
Hmm.
My primary drives are actually probably ACT therapy, acceptance commitment therapy.
I like ACT.
Really
Yeah.
big, like even just like ever since my supervisor, back when I was getting licensed in Michigan, Jen Belmonte, wonderful, wonderful therapist, right?
Yeah, I'm hopefully gonna interview her for the Enneagram 6.
going to be great.
Yeah.
I think Jen would be a great Enneagram 6 interviewee with two sixes in the room. It's going to be great. Right? But yes, ever since she introduced me to it, like just like even one of the foundations of acts is using the self as a reference, right?
Mm.
If you don't know yourself,
Hmm.
how do you do anything?
Yeah.
Because you won't know why you do anything.
Yeah.
So you can't really make any purposeful action, which is committed purposeful action, right? Understanding values, right? Um, Separation from thoughts, right? My thoughts aren't me; they're just part of me. Like everything in act lines up. Again,
Mm.
I'm missing one. I didn't say it perfectly, right? Memorization is not a key strength of mine, but everything in act is commit. Works deeply with who I am as an individual, right? I'd
Mhm.
say that therapy model probably has now eked out into just my normal life where it's
Okay.
like
Yeah.
calling up friends and like, hey, let's all do this because we want to do this. Hey, Timmy, I know you're stressed about this. Let's make committed action with it. Okay, guys, it's all of our values are in place. How are we going to make this thing that we've agreed on happen now? Let's take steps. And with that noted, again, it's probably my wing one side, or maybe it's just part of being nines. Nines are very industrious individuals.
Hmm.
We don't know how, like, if you ever say to a nine you're being lazy, oh my God, they're going to freak out. They're gonna not gonna be mad at you. They're like, "You're right," and they're like, "Caught me," and they're just gonna get to work on I don't know what something. But nines are always working. We work so hard. We don't feel like we work hard. We say we're chill people. We're not chill.
Mm.
Not chill. So solution focused therapy is a huge one for me. I love solution focused therapy. I don't know how many times the clients come in and just be like, "My house is burning down." And I think I might be struggling with self esteem issues. And I go, well, you know what? I think we need to make a solution focused step on getting you out of the burning home first
Mm-hmm.
before we worry about what you think about yourself,
Yeah.
right? That seems like a more practical thing to go, right? So
Right.
I've done some internal family systems work, but I haven't done a lot of training in it yet. I haven't done a lot of work with it yet. I can often help people find those different pieces,
Hmm.
but those pieces, right? At least in my mind, they're just pieces of the individual, right?
Hmm.
And they have their own kind of personality, right? I focus, I think, a lot more on just helping them baseline of who you are as an individual, and I don't know, it doesn't line up the IFS structure, and maybe I just need more training on it. It doesn't really feel like it lines up as strongly with me as
Yeah.
conceptualizing the individual as a whole when I've got all of these parts with individual personalities. I think I just need a little bit more training on how do you synthesize all these parts together properly.
I was more just thinking about, like you were saying, as a therapist, you know that you're reacting to everything that the client brings in.
Mm,
And Richard Schwartz, the kind of like the creator behind IFS, talks a lot about, as a therapist, bringing yourself.
mm,
And the more that you can stay in self,
mm.
the better you can respond to when your clients are like throwing things at you. They're like, I don't
Yeah.
know how to handle that. That feels like it came out of left field, like, or that really bothers me or disgusts me in
Yeah.
a way, or that scares me. Like the more that you can keep yourself as a therapist
Yep.
in self,
Hmm.
the better you are at working with that person.
That is a fun note. It does remind me of something we talked about in our last conversation, right? Nines, right? Like I said, they're very good peacemakers because we forget the self and focus on others. So
Mhm.
we're great at reading the space. But when
Mhm.
it comes to ourselves, we're big dummies. Right? So a growth point for a nine is learning about the self, living the self, and then learning to integrate how do I hold space for myself while still doing the nine thing of learning about everyone around me, right? And so it basically exactly what he's saying right here. As a counselor in general, especially if you're a counselor who happens to be a nine, right? If you learn to integrate having myself in the session, right? And really holding space for me and space for the client, right?
Mhm.
I say holding space a lot. I think it's what does that come from client centered approach? Is that what it is?
I think so. That sounds really familiar.
I love client centered approach, but holding space is the concept of like sometimes you do a therapy session because somebody just comes in, you look at them and like, oh my God, this person needs to explode. And all I do is just not freak out.
Mhm.
And I sit there and I listen and I listen. And like maybe I've done nothing that session other than given that person the space to exist, right?
Mhm.
And that was a good therapy session for them because no one
Yeah.
else does that for them, right?
Yeah.
So holding space is like even in all that when I'm holding the space for someone else, I'm still holding space for myself, right? So I'm
Mhm.
remembering like if a client does something like I don't know, client jumps up and starts like tearing off all their clothes, I might be like, you know what? I could ignore myself and say this is fine, but I might be like, I'm sorry, we're gonna have to keep your clothes on,
Yeah,
right?
this crosses a boundary.
This crosses a boundary, right?
Yeah.
So, and that is an interesting thing. A lot of, again, therapy is not really about the therapist. It's not about us, but by showing up and still respecting and holding space for myself, right? In that, setting that boundary, I'm actually kind of helping that client
Mhm.
because that client's going to need to function a space outside of here where people are not holding space for them
Yeah.
and they can't tear off all their clothes, right?
Right.
Now, that's never, wait, no, I've worked with kids before. Sometimes this has taken place where some little kid's just like, I don't know, doing the kid thing,
Yep,
right?
doing the kid
The
thing.
clothes are just too much. And I'm like, well, buddy, we're going to have to end early because this is going someplace we can't have it go.
Right. I think it was Yalom who described the therapy setting as like a microcosm of
Mhm.
someone's outside world.
Yeah.
So like how they are with their therapist, how they interact with their therapist is very representative of how they act outside of the world. And the therapist's internal reaction to whatever the client is bringing to the therapy session is probably very similar to how other people in the world react to that person as well.
Yes.
It's an interesting balance of like you said, kind of like forgetting yourself to be able to focus on the client, but then
Mhm.
also remembering like, well, my internal reactions are probably pretty similar to what other people are experiencing when this person,
Mhm.
talks or acts. And maybe that's something that, they might need to be aware of or like want to have that insight of like how are people responding to me so that I can
Yep.
um like you were saying, I can accept what's going on. I can commit to making something different
Mhm.
in my life. I can take some responsibility.
Mhm. Yep. I can notice what's happening. I can learn,
Mhm,
right?
mhm,
And this is an important note in general. If we need to go to therapy to heal through some things,
mhm.
then that suggests, and again, I could go on a more philosophical rant about this, but we heal and grow in relationship with others on the
Mhm.
basic line of that, right?
Right.
Attachment theory, there's so many things to support the idea that we need other people, right?
Yeah.
So if a client shows up and I'm just not there,
Mhm.
or I'm just denying all these weird emotions and stuff, worst case, best worst case, right? The client can't grow because they're just left by themselves with a blank wall.
Yeah.
That's their therapist.
Mhm.
Or, I guess, worst case scenario, I'm denying that part of myself, and that's eking out into my therapy session. Now I'm subconsciously directing our therapy session to act in a certain way. Maybe I'm judging my clients. Maybe I'm leading down the path because I'm bringing out myself. I'm just not
Mm,
aware of it. Right?
mhm.
There's another thought. Nines are often somewhat passive aggressive individuals because
I
they
have
may
heard that.
not know they're upset, but they know they're upset, and
Yeah.
it's going to come out in the way they talk sometimes. Like, oh, couldn't remember to be on time again. It's okay. I'm joking.
Mhm.
It's like, oh, nine, you're just actually really angry that I didn't come, and you don't think you can say that right now. So now you're being a little shit. Yeah.
So if you could sum up, maybe what like your top strengths as an Enneagram 9 therapist and your top weaknesses as an
Yeah.
Enneagram 9 therapist, what would those be?
Yes. My top strengths are going to be, again, probably, I think three areas come to mind. Summary. I am fantastic. This is not to bring myself up. It's what it is. I'm fantastic at listening to my clients, and then, oh, you're saying this. Like they might go for 15 minutes. I'm like, oh, so you felt this and you're having this experience. And they're like, how in the world did you just take everything I just said and summarize it to this core thing of what I've said? Right.
Yeah.
Now, this might frustrate some people because like, wow, you're making it too simple. But
Mhm,
really at the
mhm.
root of things, most things are relatively simple.
Yeah.
Right. But it's a good thing for therapy, right? It helps us really direct and go where we're going, really makes clients feel listened to, right? And it really helps simplify a very often chaotic life, right?
Mhm, mhm.
Like I said, very non-judgmental, right? I'm not in here this space to judge the person. I'm not in this space to make them feel anything less than excellent, right? Because like clients are excellent. They deserve to be happy. They deserve a better life. They deserve all these things. And it's not about my judgments, right? I have judgments. We can talk about those things if that's useful to the client, but that's not the goal of therapy, right? So I've yet to meet a client that has felt unaccepted in my space. I even the clients who are like, we're not going to work out, felt like they had a space if they wanted it, right? And then finally, the last one would be understanding, right? Like this is probably the biggest one. If you're a client who really wants to understand themselves, really learn why I do what I do, and start changing some of those things, right? That is a big area. We're going to be able to do that. We're going to dig into the nooks and crannies of why this is happening, right? So probably those, I think, the big three right there. If I had to pick a comment that clients say the most is they say that they just feel at peace in my office. I live
Mm-hmm.
up to the probably being a peacemaker. The only other thing I can think of then is my struggle, right? And there's one big one. If I just thought about, well, I haven't talked a lot about EMDR, but working on past traumas, reprocessing them, learning and thinking about them in a new way, healing from them. Ask therapy, learn about yourself and take committed action. Hold yourself accountable for the things that are messing up maybe your own life, maybe the things you're doing that are not working for you, right? Solution focused therapy. If I've just talked about all of these therapies, if anyone I think can maybe guess, I'm going to struggle with any client that cannot take committed action or hold themselves to any accountability.
Mm-hmm.
A client who comes in and says, I'm the victim. And just to be clear, we mentioned this in our last one. Everyone's probably gone through some victim stuff, right? We've all been a victim in some way or another, right? And there are
Mm-hmm.
some clients I'm like, just truly, oh, yes, you are the victim. I'm in full agreement. We're not going to even question that. This is very clear. You've been
Mm-hmm.
victimized, right? But a client who comes in and says, my identity is the victim, says that I don't have any control. And if I don't have any control, I can't make any changes. And if I can't make any changes, I'm not responsible for anything.
Yeah.
It's everyone else who's responsible.
Yeah.
And that, at the core of who I am as a nine, as a one, just that whole Enneagram triad of the eight, nine, and one, big into responsibility, taking committed action of myself. I'm responsible for what's happened, right? That flies in the face of everything I am as an individual.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not going to make it very far. I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to be. I mean, we'll be together for months. You might even get something out of the therapy. You might even like your time with me. But at some point, after I've burned through every way I can think of to get you on board with taking ownership, we're going to say, there's nothing more I can do for you.
Mm-hmm.
Because if a client isn't willing to believe that they can take ownership or that they can make the change in their life, there's just nothing.
Yeah,
Nine,
you can't make the change for them.
yeah. Nines also hate telling people what to do.
Mm-hmm.
So like, yeah, that's not it. Somebody's saying, "What do I do?" I'm like, "Well, I don't know. I can't tell you what to do. You could try this."
Right.
Yeah.
Good thing that's not as much of a part of our job as people think it is. Like, I think a lot of people are under the misconception that going to a therapist means somebody else is going to tell them what to do. As much as possible, I think counselors try to avoid telling people what to do because I might understand you, I might understand the circumstance that you're in, but that's kind of up for the person to decide. Like, I might understand you from my
Mhm.
limited perspective, but ultimately I don't know what's best for you. You know what's best for you, and you're going to be the one to carry it out better than I could.
Yeah. Even if a therapist is like doing an advice, it should be a concept of I'm bringing this into the room so we can have a conversation and think about this so we can
Right.
develop new thought, right?
Right.
I think swimming could be good for you. Some physical exercise. What are your thoughts about this, right?
Yeah.
We're trying to spark something, your own reflection, right? If you go to a therapist, anyone listening to this, you go to a therapist, my therapist just tells me what to do all the time. Get out
You
of
should
there.
get a new therapist.
Get a new therapist. Anyone can tell you what to do.
Yeah.
Because I don't know. That stuff is like pointless. What's the point of doing stuff like that?
Yeah.
I don't know. That's what's crazy, Bridget.
That's what's crazy. So what's up?
Yeah.
Any final words of wisdom to share? Any resources you would suggest?
Resources. I'll give you this one last thought. Right, you've got a 9 for a therapist. I could be wrong. Maybe some nines are a little bit more. Maybe you get a 9 wing 8. They're a little more gung ho than maybe us 9 wing ones, right?
Mm.
One reason people are going to think nines are lazy is we don't do any extra work that we don't have to do, right? Now, people are going to think, oh, they're lazy, they just don't want to work. Remember, we're working so hard. Even in a normal conversation like this, I'm thinking about what the audience might be thinking hearing my words.
Mm.
Thinking about how Bridget might respond to my words. I'm thinking about my own responses to my words. I am thinking and analyzing all of this. There is a ton of energy being used by a 9 on a regular basis, right?
Mm.
Just internal. You may not see it, but it's happening. So when you say, do you have resources for someone? You got a 9 as a therapist? My God, please don't ask your 9. What books do you suggest I read? What websites are you following? Oh God, please don't ask me that. When I'm out of here, I'm probably like going for a hike
Uh-huh.
or playing a game.
So your resources might be nature and
Yeah. Go for a
playing
hike.
games.
Go hang out with a friend. Go drink coffee. Go love life.
Yeah.
Do something wonderful
Hmm.
because there's enough time for work.
I like that. Do something wonderful because there's enough time for work.
Work is endless. It never stops.
Hmm.
It doesn't
Hmm.
until I die. So go do something else. It's the best resource I can give you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Go look at a squirrel for like an hour.
Oh man, Adam
It'll be
does that all the
hilarious.
time.
Yeah. If you can follow it for an hour. Those things are fast.
They are fast. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe 5 minutes.
Well, thank you so much for your time today, Joshua, for the second time around. I appreciate you being very gracious with me and my technical difficulties with my computer interview. It's been awesome to interview you today, and I'm sure people will learn a lot from all the wisdom that you brought to us today.
We'll see. This was definitely subpar my original one, so I'm sorry. People will be.
I think they were both great.
Thank you, Bridget.
You're welcome. So again, thank you so much, Joshua, for taking your time today for a second time to sit down and share with us some of your thoughts behind being a therapist who's also an Enneagram 9. This whole series has been so fun for me to do, so great to listen to other counselors' perspectives of how they approach therapy, what types of methods do they use, and just how do they see people? How do they see the process of helping someone move through a season of life that's really difficult or really challenging for them? So if you got something out of today's video or any of the other videos in this series, please drop it below in the comments because I'm so eager to hear feedback from you guys. As always, thanks so much for watching, and I will catch you in the next video.